Listen. At 6:03 a.m., two alarms go off in the same city. In one neighborhood, a robin stitches the air to morning with a thread of song. In another, the day arrives riding the Doppler wail of an ambulance cutting through red lights. Same clock, different soundtrack. This is a story about why the rich hear birds and the poor hear sirens. It's about how inequality lives not only in our bank accounts or our views, but in our ears, an invisible divide humming the shape of our streets. If you close your eyes on a city bus, you can hear the borders shift without seeing a single sign. The soft hiss of sprinklers becomes the hard grind of brakes. Tires on smooth asphalt become tires hitting potholes. You can hear when the trees run out and the hospitals begin. You can hear when escape routes give way to arteries. As a kid, I fell asleep to sirens. They were stitched into my bedtime the way other kids got lullabies. My mother worked nights, and when an ambulance wailed, she would whisper, "That's somebody's worst day." And then she'd breathe, and I'd try to match the rise and fall of the sound until it faded. You don't forget a sound that knows your window by heart. Years later, I learned there's a word for this: soundscape. Researchers who study it say cities have acoustic profiles the way people have fingerprints. They'll tell you noise isn't just noise. It's stress chemistry, it's heart rate, it's sleep. The World Health Organization has warned for years. Long-term exposure to loud noise traffic, aircraft, sirens raises the risk of heart disease, anxiety, even learning problems for kids. In city after city, the average ambient noise in low-income areas can be several decibels higher than in wealthier ones. 5, 8, 10 decibels, it doesn't sound like much, but every 3 decibels, the sound energy doubles. That's the kind of math the body feels. Meanwhile, birds are barometers. Where there's tree canopy and native plants, their songs, stack warblers, thrushes, sparrows, writing a score across the morning. Those places are quieter, yes, but they're also healthier. Lower temperatures, cleaner air, less speeding traffic. A robin is not just a robin, it's an index of habitat and policy, a musical receipt for decades of investment or neglect. Pull up the old maps, the ones that once decided who could build wealth and who couldn't. And then lay today's noise maps over them. Highways laid like surgical scars. Flight paths passing like the shadow of a hand. Industrial zones pressed against the neighborhoods that have the least power to say no. The loudest places in the city are rarely accidents. They don't just announce emergencies, they announce everything upstream of an emergency. When housing is overcrowded and clinics are far, when air is hot and asthma rates are high, when work is dangerous and heat waves linger, there are more calls more crises, more sirens. You begin to realize that a siren is not a random sound. It's a public record, set to a tone you can't ignore. Here's another twist. In some cities, the quietest neighborhoods file the most noise complaints because complaining requires time, trust, and the expectation that someone will answer. In the loudest neighborhoods, people adapt because they must. They buy the cheapest earplugs. They keep the windows closed, even in summer. They turn up the TV. When quiet becomes a commodity, the market shows up. Triple-paned windows, weekend cabins that promise you hear only wind and birds and the zipper of your sleeping bag. Silence at scale is expensive. The city helps. Sometimes it plants trees, but mostly where people already asked for them. It puts up sound walls, but walls bend noise like rivers bend light, protecting one side while concentrating another. Airports reroute flight paths, but it's a negotiation where the loudest voices get quieter skies. We keep relocating decibels rather than redesigning them. But there's a stranger, sadder poetry to it. In some neighborhoods, mockingbirds have learned to mimic car alarms and sirens. Their songs carry copies of our machines. The very birds we hold up as emblems of calm have rewritten themselves to survive our volume. When I first heard this, I thought it was funny. Then I thought it was a warning. Even the wild is learning our emergency. None of this is destiny. A city can choose its soundtrack. Traffic can be slowed, rerouted, electrified. Buses can whisper, not roar. Trees and green buffers can turn hard edges soft. Hospitals can coordinate siren protocols to reduce nighttime blasts. Building codes can democratize quiet with better insulation, not just in luxury towers, but in every unit where a child is trying to learn to read. Zoning can stop placing schools next to freeways as if the lungs of small people were negotiable. And deeper than design, there is care. Fewer emergencies come from fewer reasons to call 911. Better preventive care, cooler blocks on hot days, safe work, stable homes. Sirens are the sound of the last line of defense. Birds are the sound of the first. Maybe you're thinking, I hear both. A robin at breakfast, a siren at lunch. That's the truth of cities. They overlap, but whose overlaps are constant. Who can turn their volume down with a mortgage? And who wears their environment like an unending headset? Listen closely. Inequality hides in plain hearing. When people say the rich hear birds, they're not imagining a fairy tale suburb. They're describing a political arrangement. We engineer one with trees, setbacks, and enforcement, and we engineer the other with corridors of asphalt and flight schedules that skim rooflines like stones across water. A friend once told me, the ear is a witness most courts don't call. It notices what we stop seeing. The hut-hut of helicopters during protests. The steady bleat of trucks braking on grades. The bass line of a club on a block with no insulation. The silence of a cul-de-sac where nothing urgent ever arrives. If sound is evidence, then the city is telling us something over and over without even trying. In the end, this isn't about villainizing a siren or romanticizing a bird. Sirens save lives. Birds simply live. It's about what kind of life gets designed around which sounds. It's about whether rest can be a public good rather than a private purchase. About whether the right to hear something gentle at dawn is as basic as the right to cross the street safely at noon. So, step outside just for a minute, wherever you are. Close your eyes, count to 10, and take inventory. Try to hear what your neighborhood has been trying to tell you all along. Ask who paid for that quiet. Ask who is paying for that noise. Ask if this is the soundtrack of our choices. What would we have to choose differently so that a child who falls asleep to sirens might also wake to birds? Listen again. The city is singing. The question is, who gets to call it music? Thank you very much for watching the video to the end. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a like and comment to share your opinion. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share the video with your friends. See you in the next video. Be well.